Let's talk about some books. I've seen many people talk about their reading goals for 2026, and I want to talk about it too. Many people want to stop using numerical goals for themselves, and also a lot of people say that they want to read more broadly, like more genre, more writers, more languages in translation or in original if they can. Both of those I find really great. However, I've never really had any numerical goals for myself. I read about 80 books last year, which was really great, but the year before that I've only read 24. And the year before 2025, which is 2024, I've probably read even less. This didn't make my love for books and reading bigger or smaller. Do you know what I mean? I also don't want to force myself to read more nonfiction or start reading fantasy or do something else that I typically don't do when it comes to reading. I don't want to be anything. I just want to love reading. Continue loving reading is my goal for 2026. Another goal is talking about books more, so that's what we're going to do today. Let me tell you what I've read in January so far. Yesterday I finished The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. It wasn't my first book by her. I've read Summer and Ethan Frome before. Those are two novellas I really enjoyed, so I had really high expectations from this book. She was also the first woman to get Pulitzer Prize, Fiction Pulitzer Prize, and I think that she got it for this novel specifically, so the bar was high. However, I found it very plain and two-dimensional. It read almost like a romance, and not to say something bad about romance, but I didn't enjoy it. It is about a man who is in love with this woman, but because of social expectations and the way New York society worked back in 1870s, they couldn't be together. And I think that the story had so much potential, life unlived, regret, memory, nostalgia, all of that. Those themes I really enjoy reading about. But something about the way she told the story was just not compelling. At some point, the main character tells the woman he loves something like, wait, actually, let me pull up my notes because this is so funny. I have to read you the actual quote. "Each time you happen to me all over again." Like, what? I think that if the story had a bit more nuance in it, I would enjoy it a lot more. I know that many people read it, so I'm really curious to know if I'm the only one who felt that way. I promise this video is not criticizing American classics, but another book I didn't enjoy and even DNF'd was The Bostonians by Henry James. I've never read anything by him before and thought that this would be a really great start, but I DNF'd it around page 100, which is approximately a quarter of the novel. The entire 100 pages was just people getting together and discussing female rights, which is, I understand the importance of, but it was just so boring. Please tell me if I shouldn't have DNF'd this. On to something more positive. This book I really loved, and I think that it's going to be one of my favorites for the year. I've never heard anything about it before and just randomly got it while book shopping in Sydney. Turned out that it's the first book ever published in Virago Modern Classics series, so this is the book that the series started with. It follows a 9-year-old girl, Nanda, whose father sends her to Catholic boarding school, and we see how she navigates her relationships with classmates, nuns, and religion. One thing that makes it very interesting is that Nanda's father is a convert, while other girls are from old aristocratic Catholic families, so there's this disbalance from the very start. Another thing is that Nanda is a very fun kid, and I really enjoyed being in her thoughts and watching how she behaves in different situations. If I had to describe this book through others, I would say that this is sort of a mix between Abigail by Magda Szabo, which is also a coming-of-age story about a girl in a boarding school, and Brides Had Revisited, because it also has this huge Catholic religion aspect in it. I think that Antonia White made a really great job of making the story engaging and fun, but at the same time raising these big philosophical questions about the role of authority, religion, and discipline. There's a sequel to it, and I'm really excited about reading it. Another Virago I've read was Loving Without Tears by Molly Keane. I tend to really like what Virago publishes, so that's definitely something I'm always on the lookout for when I'm shopping for vintage and used books. It's very interesting that Molly Keane was publishing this under a pseudonym. I somehow always thought that pseudonyms is something from like 18th century when women didn't have any rights, and in order to get paid for their work and be able to write letters with their editors and publishers, they used a male pseudonym to do so. However, Keane was a 20th century writer, and the reason why she used a pseudonym was because she was concerned that her friends might make fun of her for knowing that she's a writer. I found that very interesting. Loving Without Tears is about a woman who is a mother of 2 grown-up children. She is so controlling and manipulative that she's trying to constantly plot and create these schemes to make sure that her children, her servants, even her children's friends behave in a way that she expects them to. It's almost crazy to see how she's framing all of this as love and care, but it's never that. In fact, it's harm and just the opposite of love. And I think that Molly Keane is making this point of parental involvement at some point becoming more harmful than useful very clear. I feel like I'm making an impression that this book is very serious. However, it's definitely a comedy. The dialogue is very quirky and fun, and it definitely made me chuckle quite a few times. I read 2 more books on my iPad. One is called Enough for Snow. I expected to really enjoy it because it's a mother-daughter relationship dynamic. It's art of fiction. It's one of those books where not much happens and you get immersed deeply into the inner world of the narrator. I think I was under the impression that the writer or the main character didn't quite understand her feelings. As she and her mother go on this trip, she sort of expects this connection to happen between them, to have more conversations, talk about important things. But at the same time, for example, when her mother says she doesn't want to go on a hike, New York sounds, I don't know if you hear them. When her mother says that she doesn't want to go on a hike with her because she doesn't have shoes for hiking or something, the main character still goes on a hike and spends 2 days away from her mother, which in my eyes is a bit weird, because why would she do that if she wanted to spend this time in this trip with her mother? But when I thought about it more, I decided that it's probably to show us that the mother and daughter are more alike than the daughter thinks. I feel like it's one of those books that you maybe not necessarily enjoy while reading, but continue ruminating after. I find myself thinking about it quite often. Maybe I liked it. The last book I read in January so far is The Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri. It has been on my TBR for quite a while. I think that it's quite popular. Like with all short story collections, some short stories resonate more than others. I enjoyed this short stories collection. I think that I want to read more short stories, but I don't think that I want to make this a goal, because if I do, I won't read any short stories at all. I don't want this video to be super long, but let me tell you a bit about my reading plans as well. You know how some people say that you need to romanticize being alone? I think that I'm at a point where I've over-romanticized it and I really don't want to see people anymore. So I kind of want to romanticize being more social. In an attempt to socialize my reading, I signed up for a reading club. We're going to discuss Madame Bovary. I've never read it, so I thought that it will be a great opportunity to do so, and I'll let you know how it goes, both the book club and the novel. I've seen quite a few people I know, or I guess mutually follow, enjoy Winter Love. It's a lesbian story set in 40s London. I think it's one of those books that I kind of expect to enjoy, but in the end might dislike. But I saw this copy last weekend while I was book shopping, and I thought that I will give it a try. This one I'm really excited about. It is the first novel of the sequel to Frost in May, which I loved so much. I'm not sure that the main character here is Nanda though. Yeah, I think that the main character here is one of the side characters from Frost in May, which is very intriguing. I really do hope that it doesn't disappoint me. Maybe Antonia White is my literary discovery of 2026. Who knows? You know what? Talking about books makes me really happy. I forgot to tell you that I'm also listening to an audiobook called Unwinding Anxiety. I feel like non-fiction books are the easiest to listen to as audiobooks. One is because their content is so repetitive. Even if your mind wanders for a bit, it's very unlikely that you're going to miss anything important. Also, by the way, look at the snow that I'm walking on. It is like a lot of snow. Second, because there's typically no character change or anything like that, I think that it's much easier to follow. Oh god. How am I supposed to cross it? It's like knee-high. Anyway, do you think that I've learned? 1, anxiety is a habit. It is a bad habit. So basically the entire book actually tells you how to get rid of bad habits, which I don't think I have that many. Well, maybe procrastination. But it's quite an interesting take, don't you think? And then the second interesting idea is that you cannot think your way out of anxiety. You just have to accept it and try to hack your brain or whatever, because if you're trying to think your way out of it, you're only getting deep into it. Do you know what I mean?